الجلسة السادسة تحت عنوان التطوير المهني في قطاع المعارض والمؤتمرات، يديره الأستاذ هادي بهيج ملاعب، الرئيس التنفيذي لشركة الحارثي للمعارض. الأستاذ هادي ملاعب لديه خبرة طويلة في مجالات المعارض والمؤتمرات من الناحية التنفيذية والاستراتيجية والفلسفية، فليتفضل.
السلام عليكم. أود التنبيه أن هذه الجلسة ستقام في اللغة الإنجليزية، فرجاء استخدام آلات الترجمة الفورية إذا لزم الأمر. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us in this session. It is my pleasure today to chair this important session addressing the issue of professional development in the events industry. Throughout this conference, we have heard many keynote speakers, both from the government and the private sectors, all of them important stakeholders in the MICE industry, stress again and again the importance of this sector to the economic growth of the kingdom, and we have heard some staggering figures of the potential that this segment can bring to the economy. This session will address one of the most important challenges in developing a competitive world-class MICE destination that can compete on the regional and global level. And this challenge is the education, training, and development of the human capital that will power and drive this strategy. The MICE industry is still in its infancy in the kingdom compared to well-established international powerhouses such as the USA and Germany. But this fact itself, that the industry is now being developed, gives us a very good opportunity to do things right from the beginning and to address the issue of training and development as an integral part of the strategic plan and vision of developing this sector. With me today, we have 4 international speakers, each an expert in his or her own field, who will help us shed light on the various challenges and opportunities that professional development in the event industry poses, and will share with us their experience and knowledge on this subject. The first speaker with us today is Kaathi Breeden, CAE CMP. Kaathi is Chief Operating Officer of the International Association of Exhibitions and Events. She began her association management career in 1984 and has served as a member of several board of directors, as key staff contact, chief staff executive, volunteer leader, and consultant. Breeden earned the Certified Meeting Professional designation in 1990 and earned the Certified Association Executive designation in 1995. Kaathi, if you please.
Thank you very much for the honor of presenting to you today. Just briefly, the International Association of Exhibitions and Events has been in existence since 1928. It is a global trade organization that is comprised of exhibition organizers as well as the suppliers to the industry. We have about 1,400 member organizations with about 8,000 individuals from 52 countries. So my presentation today is going to be addressing the importance of professional certifications, both in human capital development as well as personal growth. So let's look at what the goals of professional certifications are from the industry. First, it's professional recognition of your organizations of the commitment to lifelong learning. It also is a recognition that your industry is very serious about raising industry standards and practices and ethics. It also helps you to elevate the profile of your employees. As I said, it helps demonstrate that commitment to you in supporting their lifelong learning. The benefits to the employees themselves is to help them to establish a knowledge level and for them to be able to continue to grow in their experiences. And as I've mentioned, and you'll hear me mention throughout this presentation, it's a demonstration of a commitment to lifelong learning. Just because we go to university, just because we learn in our jobs, there is still a commitment that must be undertaken in understanding that conferences like these are very important in helping people to develop and continue their growth. It also increases the credibility for that individual. It helps them to be seen as an industry professional who is very committed to their lifelong career. It also helps to elevate their recognition in terms of their professional achievement. It also helps perhaps with those junior meeting planners and organizers that are on the staff so that they can be seen as mentors. There are a lot of different industry certifications in this industry. I can't even count the number of them. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to focus on two primary certifications. The CMP designation, the Certified Meeting Professional. The CEM designation, the Certified in Exhibition Management. These are the two credentials that require recertification every few years. I'm also going to touch briefly on the Certified in Meeting Management program. And then if time permits, I will also very briefly address the UFI EMD, the Exhibition Management degree. The Certified Meeting Professional designation is a designation that is offered through the Convention Industry Council. The Convention Industry Council is comprised of about 33 industry organizations throughout the MICE industry. It's a global and very diverse community of professionals of certified meeting planners with more than 14,000 throughout 47 countries around the globe, with 70% of those as meeting planners that are planners, and then 25% are the supplier side of the industry, with the remaining being educators and academics and other types. The exam itself is internationalized. It is not currently being translated into other languages, but it has been converted into more of a global English rather than an exam that's purely U.S. language focused. Then in January of 2012, CIC went to offering the exam solely by computer-based testing, and I'll address that very briefly shortly. There is a process that one has to follow in order to become a CMP. There is a very rigorous application process. Once that's passed, the person becomes a candidate, and then once they take the exam and they pass the exam, they are awarded the CMP designation. The application itself is based on work experience. The work experience, one has to have been a meeting planner for at least 3 consecutive years. And for the previous 12 months, they must have been employed as a meeting planner. There is a focus on education as well as continuing professional education. So if you happen to have a university degree, in addition to that, continuing education also counts as points toward the CMP designation. Once you are approved as a candidate, you have a year to complete the exam, and there are 4 testing periods. There are several official resources that one studies from in order to prepare for the exam. There's the CIC manual. There's also an international manual. An Apex glossary is a glossary of 1,400 industry terms that are carried across all elements of the MICE industry that have been standardized. There's also a book, PCMA, Professional Convention Meeting Management Association. They offer a book on professional meeting management. And then there is also a practice exam. All of these resources have to be purchased. And one of the things that candidates can do is that they can study this PCMA online prep course. It is an online course with practice exams. Also, in many parts of the globe, there are study groups that are offered with facilitators. And in some instances, those facilitators, that's their full-time job, is running these study groups. But in countries perhaps as Saudi Arabia, you might look for somebody that already has their CMP designation and has all of the resource materials that might be able to tutor the candidates that are coming up to take the exam. To study for the exam, the Convention Industry Council does suggest that one devotes at least 100 hours of study time before the exam. The exam itself is computer-based, as I said. It's offered through Prometrics. It's the testing agency for the CMP exam. Prometrics is also the testing agency for many of the major healthcare and medical certifications and exams. It takes about 3.5 hours to complete, and we suggest that for those outside of the United States, it takes about 4 hours. 165 multiple choice questions, and those questions really truly are focused on testing the knowledge based on the body of knowledge of the CMP exam. I'm on the CMP Board of Directors, and one of the most frequent questions I am asked is are there trick questions on the exam? And there really truly isn't. I'm also a part of the exam committee that reviews the exams before they're offered, and we make sure that all of the questions are very clearly written. There are 4 possible answers, or 4 options for answers, and there really truly is one true answer to that question. The benefits of computer-based testing is that the person does receive the results immediately. There are testing, I did check, and there are testing agencies here, both in Jeddah and in Riyadh. The CMP exam is based on international standards, which is, again, one of the benefits of the CMP exam, is that it is based on international standards. It's very aligned with other standards, the MPI Meeting and Business Event Competency Standards, as well as the Canadian Tourism Human Resource Council International Event Management and Standard. I could go into the whole I could do a whole presentation just on these 2 standards that really, I think, communicates the value of this certification. This is an example of one of the domains, the strategic planning domain, where it really tests what the common knowledge is for this domain, as well as what the specific knowledges and tasks are within that domain. There are 10 different domains within the CMP exam, and you can see that the meeting or event design, as well as the strategic planning, are the 2 that have the most questions on it. As I said previously, I said there were 165 questions. You'll see here that there were 150. We test 15 new questions on every exam to set a baseline to see how that question performs on the exam, so that by the time that it actually goes on the exam as a true question that's going to be graded, it's been tested thoroughly. The program fees, application submission fee, just for like most certifications, there is an application fee, and then a fee to take the exam, and then a fee if the person needs to reschedule the exam. There is a fee to retest. You have to recertify. Again, this is back to that commitment to lifelong learning. You have to demonstrate that you've been continually employed in the industry, and there has to be that ongoing commitment to continuing professional education. The Certified in Exhibition Management Program, that's the program that my organization, the International Association of Exhibitions and Events, offers. This certification has been in existence since 1975, and it truly tests the knowledge, the skills, and the task and the competencies of someone who is in exhibition management. It is a program that is globally based. It is governed by a group of subject matter experts. Those are people that have their CEM designation already, and they oversee the guidelines and the development, the test questions, the content of the program to make sure that it continues to be relevant and current in the industry. And its purpose, just like the CMP exam, is to raise the professional standards within exhibition management. In order to qualify, the person needs to have been employed a minimum of 3 years in the industry. And as a part of that application process, we ask that the person develop what they believe is going to be their career path. And then they have to complete 9 of 11 modules. There are actually 11 modules within the program: conference and meeting management, event marketing, operations, event sales, facilities and site selection, finance, budgeting and contracts, floor plan development, housing and registration management, selecting service contractors, strategic planning and management, and security, risk, and crisis management. If a person does have their CMP designation, they can opt out of taking that conference and meeting management module, and then they only have to take 8 of the 11 modules. I think the difference between the CEM program and perhaps other programs is that this is truly a program that's focused on the students not only having the content that is offered through the resource material that we provide, but they also learn from one another. There is a lot of group exercises, and the facilitator doesn't teach to the content that might be in that module. We expect the students to study that content before they come into class so that when they come to class, they can actually apply what it was that they read in that module. We also adapt the program for the different countries. Here you'll see a very large class of CM candidates from China. In this instance, it was a little bit more difficult to provide that group exchange in the workshops, but it's also not their culture to do that. And so we really truly adapt the program to those individual countries. But for the most part, the students do work in very small groups, and they go through exercises, and at the end of each day, at the end of each module, there is a short exam, about, I think it's 50 questions. We do offer the program both online and face-to-face. Online, this year alone, we're doing 12 courses, and in the United States alone, we've done 34 face-to-face courses. As I mentioned previously, it is a global program with about 2,000 CEMs. One of the things that we do is that we license the program to other organizations. For instance, in China, we license it to the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade, CCPIT. And when we license the program to those organizations, they're able to more adapt the program to their unique business environment. We have just launched the program this year in Brazil. We've offered the first 2 courses, and our first class of graduates will be in December 2014. And we are launching the program in Thailand early next year. The other thing that we have done is that we are in the process of rewriting all of the CEM modules to be in compliance or to follow somewhat the Art of the Show textbook. It's an introduction to exhibition management. It's the 4th edition, and this publication was just released just 2 weeks ago. In January, in some parts of the globe, we'll start charging a $100 enrollment fee for candidates, and that will include a copy of this textbook, which retails for about $110 US. To complete 9 modules, it's about $2,200 US. And just like the CMP designation, you have to recertify every 3 years. You have to show that you have taken 15 hours of continuing education. It has to link back to that body of knowledge. And it's the same thing for the CMP designation as well. It has to link back, each course has to link back to that domain or that body of knowledge. So the Meeting Professionals International, they offer a certified in meeting management program, and this is more of a senior level program for those who have been in the meeting planning industry for at least 10 years. And it's an intensive residential program. It's about 5.5 days where the individuals go. And there are about 800 meeting professionals that have received their certificates so far. The program does not require recertification, and this goes back to me saying, it depends on what it is that you're looking for, but for professional designations per se, the certifications that do require the recertification, again, goes back and demonstrates that commitment to lifelong learning. The application fee for the CMM program, it's $125 currently. Meeting Professionals International did tell me that they were reviewing the entire program at this point. That 5.5 day intensive residential program that I mentioned, MPI has been very fortunate to be able to get sponsors for the program, and so the person only has to pay their airfare, but their hotel and their food and transportation and everything else is typically sponsored. If they're not able to get it sponsored, it's $875, and the additional cost for someone to be able to participate because of the travel and accommodations, it's about $1,800 US. And then just very briefly, I do want to mention the UFI EMD certificate. It's produced with the University of Cooperative Education in Ravensburg, Germany, and its goal is to train the exhibition industry professionals to meet tomorrow's demands. And it is 150 course hours over 4 sessions, and 2 modules are face-to-face and 2 are e-learning. And I know that Rob teaches for UFI, and he could probably tell you much more about the program. And the cost is about $4,800 US. So in ending, I want to say that there are many, many different career paths, and that's one of the things that I find very exciting about this industry, is that even though somebody might start out in meeting planning, they can decide, okay, I want to go into exhibition management. I suggest that people start with their CMP designation if they're working across all departments, and then decide where they want to go. Do they want to stay in exhibition management? If so, get your CEM. And then from there, the person might want to decide that they might want to go into incentive travel. Well, then you just kind of make that decision, and that's what I did. Initially, my background is in association management, and so I got my certified in association executive certification. And then when my job started to focus more on meeting planning, I went and got my CMP. Unfortunately, because I do write test questions for the CEM exam, I'm not eligible for that exam. This is more information on each of the programs and where you can go to find the information, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have, and thank you again for this honor of presenting to you.
Thank you, Kathie. Kathie spoke about the goals and the benefits of professional designation in enhancing professional career path and also in raising the standard of professional delivery within the industry. She mentioned a lot of choices for professional designation, and she concentrated on explaining the CMP degree by CIC and the CEM degree by IAEE and the UFI degree. And she explained the process of obtaining these designations as well as the cost and the benefit of each designation. Thank you very much, Kathie. The next lecturer is Rob Davidson. Rob is a senior lecturer in events management at the University of Greenwich in London, where he works in the London Centre for Events Management within the business school. His main areas of expertise are conferences and business events, and over the last 10 years, he has written widely on these themes. His latest book, co-written with Tony Rogers, is Marketing Destinations and Venues for Conferences, Conventions, and Business Events. In addition, he regularly writes articles for the professional mice press, including conference news. Rob also runs his own consultancy business and has carried out research for a number of major conference organizations in the UK and overseas. Rob has been employed on a consultancy basis as industry analyst by Reed Travel Exhibitions, for whom he carries out ongoing research. At EIBTM in Barcelona each year, he launches his influential annual report on trends in the meetings and events industry worldwide. Rob, please.
Yes, well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very great pleasure to be here, and I would like to begin by saying a very big thank you to the organizers for their kind invitation to be part of your event. For me, it's extremely exciting to be in Saudi Arabia at this important time for the MICE industry. So I'm going to use my time to speak about something I care about very much, which is MICE education in universities. I've been teaching MICE in universities in the United Kingdom for the past 15 years, and I want to explain to you how it works, and then I want to make some suggestions as to how it could be possible to introduce MICE education into universities here in Saudi Arabia. So let's begin by looking at the different types of education for the MICE industry. This morning, we heard a lot about the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure for the MICE industry. We heard interesting presentations on convention centers, exhibition centers, and so on. Now I want to focus on the human infrastructure, the men and women who work in our industry, and more particularly, how we can prepare young people, young Saudis, to work in our industry and to make a valuable contribution. So, 3 types of education. First of all, pre-service education. I want to focus on that because that really is looking at MICE education in universities. Then, of course, many people working in our industry get their education on the job. They learn, they get a job, and they learn how to do the job by working. Many of you, I think, in the MICE industry learnt this way. Finally, in service education, which Kathie was describing, people who get a job in the MICE industry and then decide to get a qualification. So, who are the people, the organizations who are providing MICE education? Well, of course, universities and colleges, that's my subject for this afternoon. But also don't forget, we've just heard an excellent presentation from Kathie on the valuable work being done by the MICE associations. Now, these are international associations, global associations, who have prepared these excellent qualifications for people working in the industry. I'm not going to say any more about that because you know all about that now. There are online sources. It's possible to go online and study in your own time at the weekend and get a MICE qualification like that. Or finally, there are private providers. There are many organizations, private sector trainers who will promise to turn you into a meeting planner in 24 hours. Well, you need to be very careful with the quality of courses like that. But those are the principal sources of MICE education available. One of the most exciting things in our industry in the past 20 years has been the growth of MICE education. More and more people recognize that to be professional as an industry for any country, we need to look at the skills and the knowledge of the people working in the industry. So we're looking at the human infrastructure, how people prepare themselves to work in the MICE industry. We've heard a lot about certification. That was a very big step when the organizations, the associations created these qualifications, which show that the people holding a CMM, CMP, and so on have studied, they have knowledge to do the job. That sets them apart from people who simply declare that they are a meeting planner or a conference organizer. It shows that there's something real behind their name. Of course, MICE Association conferences and exhibitions like this are also a valuable source of education. In 2 weeks, I will be in Barcelona at EIBTM, one of the largest international exhibitions for the MICE industry. And at that exhibition, like most exhibitions, there will be a program of seminars where people in our industry are coming to learn new techniques, new ideas, new solutions to their problems at work. So those are important as well. In the past 20 years, we've seen a certain number of universities specializing in events management, and within that specialization, specializing in MICE education, educating young people for careers as exhibition organizers, meeting planners, managers of venues like this, managers of convention bureaus, all of the jobs that you find in the MICE industry. So certain universities around the world, I can mention a few, such as George Washington University in the United States, the University of Nevada in Las Vegas, and of course, I suppose I really should say the University of Greenwich in London. We have developed professors with these interests, with these skills to train young people. So that has been very exciting. Centers of excellence, universities focusing on this specialization called MICE. We've seen more and more MICE education conferences. Again, I run an organization in Europe of MICE professors, and every year we have our own conference. We'll be meeting in 3 weeks' time in Dublin, in Ireland, and we will come together as MICE professors from countries all over Europe and beyond. We always get people from other countries outside Europe. We will talk about our research into MICE. We will speak about the challenges of teaching young people about the MICE industry. That's progress. That helps us to exchange ideas and get new ideas from each other. Also, well, Kathi mentioned a very interesting textbook for the exhibition industry. Well, that's one of many textbooks which are used by young people in universities studying the MICE industry. That's very new. That's very important. They want to read books. They want books with all the knowledge in them so that they can study. And also, finally, in the last few years, we've seen a number of MICE academic research journals. Now, that's a big step. That's very exciting because it means that professors like me, we can do research, which we should do all the time, and then we can publish it in academic journals so that other professors, other students can read our academic research. But although it's academic research, I think very much of it is valuable and is interesting for people like yourselves working in the MICE industry. So those journals have legitimized MICE education in universities to some extent. We're seeing more and more young men, young women doing PhDs in MICE-related subjects. Again, it's a very big step forward. I would like Saudi Arabia to be a part of this story. As I said at the beginning, I think it's very important that the human infrastructure is solid and professional in any country, and Saudi Arabia is no exception. Therefore, I'm going to try to show you my suggestions for how this could be applied in your country. I would like to see professors teaching this subject in Saudi Arabia. I would like to see young people in your country choosing to study the mice industry because they understand the importance of the industry for your country's economy, for your country's international image, and all the other benefits of mice education. So here are my ideas. It's Rob Davidson's idea. It's not an official strategy in Saudi Arabia, but about 20 years ago in the United Kingdom, I used a similar plan, a similar strategy to get tourism into our universities. Here is what I would do. Number one, I would create an inventory of existing provision. What's already happening in your country? Are there any mice-related courses in your universities already? Possibly not, but it's important to find out first who is doing what in your universities, which is in some ways related to mice. I know that already in Saudi Arabia you have professors of tourism teaching that subject. Are any of those people interested in specializing in mice, as I did? I originally was a tourism management lecturer, and I saw the opportunities and the excitement behind mice, and I specialized in that. So let's see what's there already and what are the gaps. What are the gaps to be filled, and let's prioritize them in order of importance. What's the most urgent thing that we need young people to learn about mice? Where do we begin? Step two, academics like me, we should never try to create courses in a vacuum. It's never a good idea for academics to sit in an empty room and write a curriculum for a course. We need to listen to you, to men and women working in the mice industry. What do you need young people to know when they leave universities? What are the skills and the knowledge that you think are most important? So an advisory board must be created to guide that curriculum development, with all these kinds of peoples in it. Employers, mice employers, many of you, many of the people exhibiting out there, we need to listen to your ideas. What do you want young people to know when they come to work for your company or your organization? What is the knowledge you expect them to have? Next, we need to create a program to identify actual or potential champions of mice education. Here I'm speaking about professors already working in your universities who could develop an interest in this field. We need Saudi people working in your universities who could be persuaded to champion the industry and to lead the development of mice education in this country. And then you need to work with them in association with the advisory boards to create courses which really do correspond to the needs of the Saudi mice industry. The Saudi mice industry, with a Saudi characteristic, reflecting your traditions and your customs. Step four, we need to get young people interested in this industry. Now, I think if you walk outside into the streets of Jeddah and say to young people, are you interested in the mice industry? They will have no idea what you mean. So we need to get young people to understand the excitement and the importance of a career in the mice industry. And that begins by going into schools, by going in with young employees in the industry who speak about their job. You know, our industry is exciting. It's about bringing people together, exchanging ideas, buying and selling at exhibitions. We need young people to go into schools here in the kingdom and speak about their job. Young people who are good ambassadors for our industry, who can persuade other young people that this is an exciting career with opportunities, travel perhaps. We need to get young people interested in our industry. Scholarships. I think you can see already that there are interesting courses overseas in other countries. And I've heard yesterday and today that many of you have been overseas to study as part of your education? Well, I'm suggesting here that some of your young people, your promising, bright young people, do the same, that they go overseas to study MICE in countries where MICE education is already established. Send them overseas, let them study undergraduate level, master's level, on condition, of course, that they come back and work in the industry, teach, because we're going to need teachers, or do research in the industry. Step 6, now this is not so much about the universities, but nevertheless, I think it's important for the professionalism in your industry, in our industry. People already working in the industry, secondments, let's let them go abroad from time to time to shadow, to follow their equivalents in other countries who are doing the same job. That's a way of learning. That's a way of studying best practice. How do people do your job in other countries? I'm not saying that they do the job better, but they perhaps do it differently. And I know when people come together who do the same job in different countries, they always learn from each other. So again, is there a role there for the government to sponsor secondments to let people learn from others? And finally, we need the public, the Saudi Arabian population, to understand our industry much, much more. Remember, you must persuade young people that it's a great career, but you must also persuade their parents that the MICE industry is a source of interesting work and careers. So I would like to see much more general publicity to raise the public awareness in Saudi Arabia of the impacts of our industry, which everyone in this room understands, but the people in the streets, the men and women working, living in Saudi Arabia, need to know much, much more about our industry and its important role. So whenever there's a big conference in Jeddah, or Riyadh, anywhere in your country, I would like to see that in the newspaper so that Saudis get used to seeing that this is big business, it's a promising career for themselves, for their children. Finally, apologies for speaking too long, but I always have a lot to say. I'm a professor, it's normal. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and I'm looking forward to hearing your comments and questions. Many thanks.
Thank you, Rob. Rob spoke about incorporating MICE undergraduate and postgraduate degrees at universities and colleges in the kingdom. He spoke about the type of education available for MICE, the suppliers of this education, and the growth of the MICE education segment. And then he proposed a 7-step strategy or plan to expand MICE education in the kingdom based on a similar plan that they have implemented 20 years ago to introduce tourism into UK universities. So thank you very much, Rob. Our next speaker is Mr. Brahim Al-Khaldi, Regional Manager, UFI, the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry. Brahim is the Regional Manager of the Middle East and Africa Regional Office of UFI, the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry, since May of 2006. Before joining UFI, he was involved directly in exhibition and trade fair business, working from 1993 as a PR manager in the public establishment for international fairs and exhibitions in Damascus, Syria.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I will be also, I think like my colleagues, I will have to press forward. Otherwise, I will end apologizing for the time. I will be speaking about 3 things, basically. A general overview about the exhibition industry these days in the world, then a general overview and facts and figures about the Middle East and Africa, and finally, if we have time, I will tell you something about UFI. So if we start directly, very quickly, what is UFI? Just introductory slide. UFI is the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry, uniting the industry organizers venues, associations, and partners of the industry. As I said, if you have time, we will get back to UFI. Now let me go directly to the facts and figures which you may be interested in. This is the venue and indoor exhibition space in 2011 according to the UFI world map of venues. This figures refers to the exhibition venues in the world that up to 5,000 square meters and purpose-built exhibitions. If you look at it, it's Europe, which stands for almost half the space in the world, 48%. Then we have the North America, and then Asia and Pacific, which are emerging. If we speak about the breakdown of this figure, it will take us a long time. So if you have any question about this, I will come back to it. What is important about this is to note that in the Middle East and Africa, both, we stand only for 4% of the exhibition venue in the world. Now, if we look about the list here, the UFI World Map exhibition venue, again, national, country-wise, we look here about that 15 countries in the world accounts for 80% of the global indoor exhibition space. Now, this, of course, USA, 1/5 of the world capacity. And if we look also here, only the first 5 countries, which are USA, China, Germany, Italy, and France, they stand for almost 60% of the venue capacity in the world. Now, here the regional trends between 2006 and 2011, this is very important to note. Everywhere in the world there was an increase in the venue space. Of course, the size of the Middle East and Africa is small, but still it's going up. If we look at it here, we have this plus 16% over these 6 years in the entire region. So we can speak about always growth in the space. Now, if we speak about the utilized space according to UFI estimation, this is of course related to the global slowdown started in the year 2008, 2009. We take it as an index point for this. Many countries went down, many countries stayed around, and a little in Europe go up. We see that Turkey only go to up to 15%. Germany almost stayed the same, and we see Spain is 2 down. Now, if we go out of Europe in Asia, we see that Japan only is going down since 2008, and the recovery started in 2011 onwards. And clearly, Asia was the first to recover. In our region, if we have to speak about our region, we cannot speak that it was badly stricken, except in very few sectors which are related directly to the international economy. But I will show you later in our slides about the Middle East and Africa why the Middle East and Africa region is not very affected in this slowdown. Now, in China and Russia, China and Russia actually grew fastest in 2011. These figures are only for 2011, and we can see that China and Brazil and Russia around 11% of growth in the exhibition space and number of trade shows, of course. And if we look at Germany, we see these cycling shows. I mean, cycling shows, this refers what is biennial. Some of the shows are biennial, so we can't count it except in this way. We have to make balance about it. So some countries have minus growth. Now, events and exhibition, according to AMR International, the global exhibition market worth $29 billion US. This estimation, of course, is not from UFI, it's from AMR. And we speak about also the emerging from the 2008 economic downturn. They started to grow back, as I said, in 2011. Now, the forecast for the future is 5% per annum. Every year, we will have almost 5% increase and growth in the exhibition industry, and this will be basically spearheaded by Asia and Middle East, Brazil, and Russia, as we said. What are the new trends here in the events exhibition? Actually, we see and we notice that there are a lot of hottest show sectors. As you see, renewable energy, green building, and internet retailing is very hot sectors in the future. Now, we speak a bit, I want to go fast about this. A lot of people speak about this, and I'm maybe the last to speak about it. The economic impact of our industry is well known for everybody now. This is where we are. Everybody knows that against every €1 spent for the participation in a trade show, there are at least €5 are spent. And here, with our contribution as exhibition sector to the economies of our countries, and this is, of course, now everybody knows about it and will be speaking about it all the day, so I will not speak a lot. The direct inputs that the exhibition industry goes with the development of the economy is the land, the venue investment, the venue management, and the event organization, and other things. The indirects relates to the infrastructure development, tourism support, destination promotion, and exhibition industry support. Now, what does the future hold for the exhibition industry? This is the question. We have to look how it develops. It develops like this. We started in the first phase of the exhibition industry to only selling space. Then our industry moved to be service-oriented in integrated services. It developed later to CRM, database marketing, and targeting groups. And finally, we are already in the future. The future says that we have to be the thought leaders of the sectors we are serving. And this is the future of our industry, as you can see. Of course, according to the geographic and cultural differences between the world regions, many are just jumping between the stages, or maybe somewhere between the third and the fourth. Anyway, the world is not one economy. Now, what is the exhibition in the future and now? What should be virtual? It should be a traditional conference. It should be a mix of all of this. The exhibition, the trade show of the future should be a mixture of all this. You can't anymore do any exhibition just for selling space and services. You have to make live streaming. You have to integrate technology. And of course, there are a lot of key challenges for the exhibition industry, one of which is technology, as I said here. The online marketing should be part of the story, and we have to think how we have to target the new generation and the Facebook generation, how they will, to attract them to attend and to market actually in our media. The cost pressure is going up for the travel, the business travel. All these are challenges, a lot of challenges. Actually, if I speak, I will just pass time, so I will skip some of them. Let's speak about the opportunities for venues, for example. This is important. The venues should really deal with the organizers and the customers from a partnership point of view. You can't anyway look at your organizers as filling the gap for you. No, they should be looked at real partners who are contributing to your own success. And this is indeed very important, I know here. For the exhibition, it's still a powerful tool. We don't need to be very worried about the future. The SMEs are very interested in the exhibition industry. It's the best medium for them. And the blockbuster major event is still important for big companies because they want to retain their presence and still waving the flag in the market, while they only will choose the big show because the budget is going down. I will just finish about this. What is the strategic priorities for UFI members? The strategic actually to stay within their current scope, 29% from the world, this is the world statistic, of course, and 36% of them said that they want to develop new activities within the classical range of the exhibition industry, and the rest that they want to develop activities in terms of virtual events and so on, or mix of it. Now, I consumed the time actually speaking about this, but quickly I will speak about our region here. This is a report we launched recently this summer. It was being compiled by the regional office in the Middle East and Africa. This, of course, contains a lot of quantitative and qualitative information about the exhibition industry in the region. Some of you know about it because they attended. It covers here the exhibition venues, the number of trade fairs, exhibitions, the description of significant business sectors, emerging trends, and future evolution, SWOT analysis, and that was covering 44 countries in 12 and to 44 countries, 12 in the Middle East and 32 in Africa. Now, quickly, I will show you this charts. Actually, it refers to the venue space in the Middle East. This is between 12 countries in the Middle East, which are included in our UFI chapter for the region. UAE 31, Iran 21, and these two countries stand for almost half the space in the Middle East. And this is the figure, the real figures, the real space, almost 230,000 square meters in the United Arab Emirates of exhibition, purpose-built exhibition venues. And this is regarding Africa. We look at, find South Africa as really something different in that continent. It's a special model, actually. It's very advanced in comparison of the rest of the continent. We have also some space and some good exhibition industry in the north. Actually, in Africa, the exhibition industry comes in the tips, the very south, the very north, and to a lesser degree, very east tips, while we hardly find a real exhibition industry in the rest of the continent. And this is the figures here, South Africa, with more than 200,000 square meters of exhibition space. And this is the total for both regions, exhibition, both regions, Middle East and Africa. We see that the UAE is still #1 in exhibition industry. And this is the number of events. Of course, the years of reference, I can tell you if you ask me later, the year of reference have been modified in a way because in the last few years we have some instability in the region. So we were obliged to make some comparison between 2011, 2012, and 2010 for some countries. Now, this is the general result. Actually, you see that the biggest number of shows is held in Iran, and then in the United Arab Emirates. And in Africa, we looked at it's South Africa again, #1, and Algeria, #2. Now for the country ranking according to the events in 2000, this is the mixed one, Iran, United Arab Emirates, South Africa, and Algeria, and the rest comes. Now this is the main sectors in the Middle East and Africa. The main sectors actually, we noted that still the consumer shows, whether it's direct sales or not, whether it's specialized in one commodity or not, it's still #1 everywhere in the region. And this is, of course, it has reasons. I will show you quickly these results, and this is important for me to pass over it now. In this survey, in the same report, in this survey, 80% of the surveyed exhibition leaders of the region are optimistic. Why? And this explains why we are not very affected in the global slowdown, because there's high and young population, and the emerging trade and trade-oriented economies in the region here, and there is also untapped markets still. And there is also governmental central support, as we see today here. I mean, this forum shows you how other countries are working also. The governments are supporting and focusing on this. And finally, the irreplaceability of the face-to-face promotion. Most of our surveyed leaders said that there will be no other way to market. Now, a lot of problems still in our face, and this is, of course, the rest of the SWOT. The uncontrollable political and security instability in the region is well known, and it's a chronic lesion, actually. And we have the deficiency of trained, qualified staff, otherwise my colleagues have been talking about. We have the inadequacy of and sufficiency of exhibition infrastructure, and finally, the government restrictions. Now, I think I will not have enough time to speak about UFI itself, unless I'm allowed to, actually. So I will skip it. If you need any information about UFI, that just tell me. I can speak Arabic, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Brahim. Sorry for the time. Brahim went through some figures and stats about the industry in general, and he reviewed some regional trends from 2006 to 2011. He also explained the economic impact of our business on the overall economy of any country. Also touched base on the future of the industry and the importance of being thought leaders to be able to distinguish ourselves within the industry. He also went into details about the the reports that was done on 2011 and 2012, and the regional report in the Middle East and Africa with some very interesting figures. So thank you very much, Ibrahim. Our next and last speaker is Mr. Iraj Isaac, who is the Associate Director of Business Development for the MCI Group's Middle East offices based in Dubai. He is responsible for supporting association and the public sector to develop their market entry strategies and conferences portfolio to best engage their members and target audiences. Prior to joining the MCI Group, Iraj Isaac has worked with the banking, shipping, and art industries in business development position. He has been with the MCI Group for more than 3 years and is a current international committee member of the Young Leaders Program with the Society of Incentive Travel. Iraj.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity today to present to you the importance of associations. While I've only been working with associations for only 3 years, I've had the good fortune of working with one of the largest association management companies in the world, the MCI Group, and my personal learning has been fast-tracked because of this. My name is Iraj Isaacs, and I'm here today to talk to you about the power of A. So before we start, let us start by actually defining what is an association. An association is an organized body of a group of people who come together with a common idea, purpose, or activity. And it can even just start with 2 people. And with an idea from these 2 people, a community can be born. Associations have had a rich contribution throughout human history, from the Roman Empire into the 1700s and well into the 1900s and into the era of inventions. While professional associations started out to create dialogue between like-minded people, professional associations have gone further to teach specific skill sets to their members, and they also have been justifying the wages and hours people should be working within a certain profession. The last century has had an explosion of inventions, everything from air travel, steam engine, trains, ships, the automobiles, the telephone, painless surgery, and the zipper. And with all of these associations that have been formed around inventions, every time you have a new invention that comes into place, there is an association that is created around this, which is like its own ecosystem for its own industry members. Now, so why associations? Why is it relevant to us now in this day and age? Well, associations do serve their own functions, but what I want to talk about is what does it mean to people and the community at large. And the first is through volunteerism, which associations are made of. Volunteers have their lives enriched, especially the personal and professional lives, because they have an opportunity to contribute to the larger scope of their profession. The second, it keeps us competitive by offering professional education, and it is something to do with the commitment to the lifelong learning, which my colleague earlier talked about. The third, it does fuel the economy, and it does set industry standards. And by setting these industry standards in quality, safety, service, it is able to create more jobs and more ultimately spending as well. And finally, it impacts the future by allowing their volunteers to advocate and lobby with the local and international communities to make sure that their professions remain progressive. So what type of associations do we have? Well, we have professional associations, trade associations, and between these two, they cover a lot of different interest groups and topic matters. They cover things in healthcare, the military, the pharmaceutical industry. There is an association for practically everything. There's an association of clowns. There's an association of popcorn makers. There's an association of shoe cobblers. And there's also, in the mice industry, a variety of associations as well. There's also federations, which is an association of associations. And you have, like, for example, the World Heart Federation, which is made up of multiple cardiology-related societies. And you've got athletic federations, and you have labor union-based federations. And also between government bodies, you have federations like the G8. I'll give you an example of a much more common federation that you might be aware of is the Olympics. The Olympics is one of the biggest sports federations in the world today. So when we look at the association marketing trends, I'll be using the STEEP model to cover this, and we'll start with what's happening in the political framework. And in the political space, there is definitely a new world order, and associations are aware of it, especially countries like China, which are playing a much more vital role in the global arena. Also, emerging markets like Russia and the Middle East are setting the political agendas, and associations know this. They want to set up offices and a physical presence in these countries so they can help these countries reach their strategic objectives. The second is on the environmental side. Associations know not only the economic impact they have, but the environmental impact when they bring their large conferences to new destinations. So they always choose destinations which tend to have, which help them reduce their carbon footprint. So they will choose destinations that have a positive transport system. So people are using less taxis and maybe more of the metro. They're digitizing their content, so they're printing less. And also, a lot of the times, associations will tie up with a local cause or a charity to create legacy in the destination that they're coming into. On the economic side, associations are becoming more immune to the uneven economic growth. What happened back in 2008, and we're still feeling the effects of it now, it has made associations understand that they need to continue to diversify their geographical presence across the world to reduce their financial risk. Also, another thing that associations notice is that when something like a recession comes into place and people, unfortunately lose their jobs, a lot of them go back to school and start investing in themselves. They start going back into academia and they start getting additional degrees, and associations know this, so they really ramp up and increase their marketing during these economic cycles so that they could get more revenue. The fourth is on the technology side. Now, on the technology side, when it comes to social media to begin with, associations know that they can reach out to their members using social media, and they know that ideas are created on LinkedIn and Facebook groups, so they always maintain their LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter accounts as well. But also, they have also moved away from always just maintaining a face-to-face classroom learning environment, and they've moved into online learning as well, especially for their members who are geographically displaced across the world. A lot of the times, associations do their conferences in places like Europe or North America, and people from Africa and Asia can sometimes not afford it. So they do digitize the content and offer it online for them, so they're still engaging their members. And also, the other important thing is how are associations partaking with the fight with cybercrime and cyber terrorism? Maintaining that the internet remains a safe place for people to exchange information. Associations are setting up associations for this purpose. On the social demographic, a much recent social demographic that has come into place is the Generation Y. The Generation Y is unique because of a variety of reasons, but the two main reasons I will talk about today is, the first is their focus on work-life balance. If you speak to people this day and age, when you talk to them about work-life balance, there is a time to work, there is a time to play, there is family time, and there is my time. Associations are aware of it, that people are spending less time, but they're spending it in a much more focused manner. The other thing about Generation Y is that there's a certain sense of urgency, and I think that's the best way to describe it. They feel that it is very urgent. So what you would find is someone from Generation Y, when he gets a new job, on Sunday he'll join, on Monday he wants to get promoted, on Tuesday he wants to be trained, and then by the end of the week he wants to be CEO. And associations are aware that the younger generation do want to leapfrog in their career path. So they're offering certifications and programs as well, which helps them move from maybe a manager to senior manager, from senior manager to director level within their organization. Now, another trend which we can talk about is, of course, globalization. And while the corporate sector is definitely well versed on the subject of globalization, associations are not that far as well. Associations are, actually, they've done something very interesting. The first is, of course, that they have offering their programs and content in multiple languages, and they're offering it in classroom settings and training centers across the world through facilitators. So the second thing that they're doing is the associations have also set up an association for globalization. Examples are, for example, GALA, which is the Globalization and Localization Association, and LISA, which is the Localization Industry Standards Association, who are essentially making sure that information is being shared across the world, but local relevant content is being maintained. So associations are doing their part with this trend. Now, so what do associations fare? Based on a McKinsey report that came out in 2010, associations have their top 3 fares include keeping their sponsors. 90% are scared that their sponsors will leave them because they don't find it valuable for them to be part of the association and the work that they're moving forward with. The second is 85% of their members may leave, and that is another fear that they have. They fear that they will leave because there's not a value proposition and why they should remain as members. And finally, 80% are afraid that their Congress attendees will not return next year because they've not put together the right program. Another big fear, though, which associations do have also is culture. Adapting to culture is something which associations are constantly bombarded with in their day-to-day workspace. And I'll explain to you why. You see, a lot of the international associations stem from certain countries. They come from the United States, they come in from the United Kingdom, they come in from places like Belgium. And if you look at the graph, you'll see that a lot of these countries are in the blue area of the graph. They're on the linear side, which means that these people are very factual, decisive planners. But the same associations are going into markets like China, which is on the yellow side, and where people are probably better listeners, but they're at the same time, they work with a certain amount of gray area, which is difficult for these associations to understand. The other areas that they're going into is Saudi Arabia and the Arab countries, where people are, you see that we're placed on the red side of the Lewis model, and where people are much more emotional, impulsive. We want it now. We need to create this in the next 6 months. They work with a much shorter lead time, and associations in the US and in the established developed world have to understand this. Now, what are associations doing about it? Associations are investing in their people to be trained and learn about cultural management and cross-border management so they can deal with this and manage their members who reside abroad. So how do associations sustain through globalization and the fears that we've mentioned? Well, to begin with, associations are exploring new geographic and industry trends. And let's take, for example, healthcare. Now, the healthcare has had an experience where the pharmaceutical companies are not sponsoring as many doctors as they did before because of compliance reasons to association conferences. So how do associations get involved in this? A lot of the pharmaceutical companies are looking for new ways to market their products and their messages to the same doctors. So I'll give you a very interesting example that just came in from India to my team. Nestle has a division called Nestle Nutrition, and they tend to send some doctors from India to conferences in Europe. What they've done instead is they are creating a program which is called a Key Opinion Leader program, where they're helping doctors in India go from just being a practicing doctor to becoming a key opinion leader in their subject matter. And they need to put a program around this, which happens to be an online platform. There is an Indian association. The Indian Association for Pediatric Nutrition is assisting Nestle with the content. So now what has happened here? The pharmaceutical company is continuing to engage the same doctors, and they're giving them with something which is more valuable to their target audience, and the association is assisting with the content. So associations are exploring a new sector opportunity in this case. The second is they're reducing their expenditures and increasing non-member revenues. And by reducing expenditures, they're becoming more financially lean, And they're reevaluating a lot of their revenue models and partnerships, especially when they go outside of their domestic markets. More specifically, if they're coming to the Middle East, associations no more are really interested to come over here and pay an association management company like MCI to say, okay, we'd like to do some research on the market first, and then we'd like to hold a conference. They're not interested in doing it that way anymore. Instead, what they want to do is find a partnership model where they share the risk with the association management company, and that we can assist them in generating revenue and increasing their membership. So it's really bottom line and straightforward. They have a much more commercial approach to it now. The second is they're also increasing non-member revenue. So historically, to become a member of an association was everything. Once you became the member, you used to pay a certain fee, and then you had access to their resources, their networking, and their learning tools. What has happened now is associations are creating non-member-based revenues for people who are not members. So their workshops, their conferences, and trainings welcome everybody, not just their members. It is the plan to make them members in the long run, but they're creating their content to invite more people into their association. Focusing on younger generation of members. So this is something which, I'm speaking from experience over here. So associations, what they're doing now is they're setting up programs to invite younger people and get them on board and on board. The thought behind it is actually very straightforward. The younger a person is, and the faster you get them on board, they have a much longer life expectancy, and that much longer they will be members with your association. I'm part of the Society of International Travel Executives site, which is one of the MICE industry's own association, and they have something called the Young Leaders Program, which is targeted towards people who are under the age of 35. It is a great way to engage me as a young leader and also get me to network with people in my own industry at my age. So they're focusing on getting us on board younger, so we're committed to a lifelong process of learning with the association. And of course, creating new membership categories. I'll go back to healthcare and explain this one because they're a good example. The World Heart Federation has been, for a long time, has been pushing a lot of their memberships to be around specifically doctors who are cardiologists, cardiac interventionists, anything to do with the human heart. And what they've done is they've broadened their membership category to also include general physicians or even non-general physicians practicing specialists, like a rheumatologist or a oncologist, someone who's involved in cancer. And by doing this, they're being able to speak to a much larger audience within the healthcare community. They also have it for students and nurses and allied professionals. So this is something we're seeing a lot of associations moving into. Yeah. Sorry, I will just move now much faster. So the economic impact of meetings, I won't spend too much time on this, but of the $3.2 trillion which went towards business tourism, which went towards the world tourism, 1.1 trillion actually came from business tourism, which includes association meetings, conferences, and events. In terms of the association's marketing mix, a lot of the industry feel that meetings and events have contributed very much part of the market mix, and they spend about 21% of their budget on that. In terms of the ROI on events, 50% lead to spin-off events. For instance, an association has one of their events. 22% of an association is spending the marketing budget toward events, and 80% feel that there's a much higher ROI than any other marketing tool for an association activity. In terms of the region, I think very quickly I'll just want to focus on the kingdom. Of international associations, there are 53 active association members which are residing in the kingdom today, based on MCI's research. And of these 53, 29 of them are actual board members. So they're part of the leadership committee of that association, so they can help define strategy. In terms of association meetings that are happening in the region, the UAE is right now sitting as the #1 place for association meetings, but Saudi Arabia in 2011 held 13, and in 2010 held 10. And hopefully through forums like this, we're able to get more associations to hold their conferences here. I'll just quickly go over 2 case studies that MCI has worked with large associations. The first is EULAR, which is the European League Against Rheumatology. What has been interesting about this is that between 2011 and 2013, actually the number of association delegates declined. So it was in 2011, 16,000, in 2012, 14,700, and then in 2013, 14,000 only. But what was interesting to see was that the number of abstracts had gone up, so that even though people were not attending the conference because of whatever reasons, they were still contributing to the content through their abstracts. We're doing the next one in 2014, and because we're forecasting healthcare to stabilize next year, we're expecting 17,000 delegates to attend, which will result in almost a $275 to $300 million economic impact on the city of Paris. A much closer case study, which happened more recently in the Middle East, was in Dubai, where we did a conference for the CIBOS, their World Congress. We had 7,000 plus delegates who came, who stayed in 3,000 plus hotel rooms, which were distributed across 26 hotels and 19,000 hotel room nights. We had 880 vehicles to move these people across the Congress. This Congress was also unique because they had 35 side events, and each of these side events was 200 to 500 people. We had 200 exhibitors, which was the highest number of exhibitors this association's ever faced in the world, so this was a record for the Middle East. We put in almost 451 staff were involved in this project, and it was the 35th year of the Congress being held anywhere in the world. The economic impact to the city of Dubai was almost 65 million dirhams. Yeah. And that's it from my side. Thank you. I hope you understand now the power of associations.
Thank you very much, Iraj, for the presentation. I'm sorry we're running a little bit behind the schedule, so we're just going to jump right away into questions. Please. Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to find out that there are an international interest to come to our country. I'm Dr. Mujalid. I'm a UN staff who I am from this country and this city. But I left the country about 10 years ago, and I'm coming back here to do and prepare something for the country. Kaathi, thank you so much for what you have done. But I think your introduction, it is something where you need to elaborate and convince how those who are in the country here to have a joint, to associate with your globalization part. Because in terms of your restriction and the way that you have presented your presentation, it will make people here to be afraid of joining your all certification applied and so on. The country has a lot of potential to have an associate to do those conferences. I'm afraid that Saudi Arabia in the next 5 years, they will have a large immigrant part of how they are going to attend and do conferences. Professor Rob, thank you so much. Again, your suggestion, it is very good, but I'm afraid that to introduce this suggestion to the community, you need a lot of time in order for these people to understand the MCI education and to be elaborated in the country. I'm sure that there are a university called University of Prince Sultan Tourism in the country. Need that you have to engage Greenwich University to be part of this, because otherwise your ideas, it will be lost at the 20 years ago that what you have done before. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. Kaathi, would you like to address the challenge of maybe bringing an American model into Saudi Arabia and how you can go ahead implementing that?
Yes. Well, as I indicated, it is. We adapt the program based on the local business environment and the local culture, and we work with the organization. We typically work with associations that are in that country or with the Convention and Tourism Bureau within that country to adapt the program to that country's needs. So I don't want you to think that it's a US program that's being imported into Saudi Arabia. That's not the case.
Okay, and Rob, do you think it will be challenging? I mean, you're talking about a strategy, a 7-step strategy, and it deals with higher learning and official and government institution. How realistic do you think this approach is in the kingdom, and what kind of a time frame we should be looking at?
Yes, well, thank you very much for your observation. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate that this takes time. It has taken a long time in other countries to get off the ground, but I think that it's important, really important, to take that first step. And I'm happy that you think that there might be a scope for some collaboration, cooperation, because that's how people learn. So it's wonderful that you feel that Saudi Arabia would be open to learning from what other universities have done.
Sorry, first here, please, and then to the left.
My name is Hamad Al-Sheikh from Saudi Commission for Tourism and Antiquities. My question for everyone in the panel. The establishment of the Saudi Commission for Saudi Exhibition and Convention Bureau is the first major thing for the industry for maybe more than 30 years. What do you expect from your experience in other countries? What do you expect the changes and the transformation in the Saudi Exhibition and Convention industry expected to be after the establishment? Are there major expectation of changes in the industry and not only just on the event organizers, if the whole thing that related to exhibition and conventions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I will just briefly answer this, and then I will ask my colleagues to do so as well. As an exhibition and conference organizer in the kingdom, our company, Al-Harithī Group, the expectation or the potential after launching this bureau is that if everything that has been discussed and all the issues that have been identified in this conference, if we can meet next year at the same time, and most of these have been resolved, or at least concrete steps have been taken towards resolving these issues, we believe that there is a humongous potential for the growth of the industry. The bureaus, usually its main function is to promote the MICE industry, to promote Saudi Arabia as a whole, as a destination for MICE. And I strongly believe of the potential, provided that these issues that have been identified are addressed. Anyone else?
Actually, I would say 3 words. Now, once you have set what you want, set your goals. It's follow-up, control, and adaptation.
Absolutely. Maybe, okay, one question from the ladies, and then one more question because we're running out of time.
Hello. Yeah. Hi there. First of all, I would like myself. So I'm Aisha Najmi from Mecca, first woman company organizer exhibition. I have some question. First of all, it's how we can tell our young generation about the improvements of organization exhibition. I want some good advice from you. And secondly, I want to also know about some companies we can work with them to take some international courses about management or organization exhibition. The best way we can tell our young generation in Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy?
Well, I think that especially for the younger generation, many of the associations have scholarships for them to attend their meetings and their conferences. And I would encourage you to let your younger staff know of those opportunities. But there are also many online learning opportunities as well. Just as this program is being streamed out live, there are those types of opportunities as well for them. But I also think that making sure that they're attending exhibitions and that they see the value and the excitement and the enthusiasm of walking onto that show floor and seeing these glorious, wonderful stands and what they represent in terms of generating commerce for that country. I think it's a combination of things that the younger generation, I think, really highly values and will help get them excited as a career in the industry.
Okay. Just add, I think it's a wonderful question, and I think it's really important that, following on from what Kathi said, we need to inspire young people to learn about our industry and to get excited about it. When I see my students coming to the University of Greenwich to study events management, they want to study wedding planning and party planning because they know those types of events. I spend a lot of energy to change their minds and to convince them that our industry is exciting and important, to tell them about the power of exhibitions and how they can play a role in that industry. It's not easy, but once they understand, and as Kathi said, once they've been to an event like this and see how it works, they are inspired. So when my students are studying, I'm sending them every week to volunteer and work at exhibitions and conferences so they can see what happens, they can see behind the scenes, and then they get interested.
Sorry. Another thing, of course, is our industry already does have, SITE, ICA, AAPCO, MPI. A lot of them have Middle Eastern regional chapters that already exist, and they usually do have a program that already exists for young people. So what I would encourage them to do is probably try and join one of them as well. And that'll be one of the right places to start. The second is a program, an event like the Saudi CEF Forum. It would be great next year if we're able to see if it has something targeted towards students, maybe a show around, maybe a lecture, maybe a workshop. I think that it's a starting point as well.
Do we have time for one more question, or should we wrap it up? Just one more question, please. The gentleman here has had his hand raised since the beginning.
Thank you. Ali Al-Haji from the Saudi Commission, Lahsa region. This my point to Abraj. As you know, this exhibition and conferences here is just launching, and you talk. Thank you for your presentation about association, which is good. This will be supportive to this program and to this industry. But as you know, and here we have procedures and governmental procedures and ways and laws to establish association. I hope you elaborate on this, not now, but in the coming events and business to synchronize those bylaws and the international arena, so we can really establish this association that goes and with the community and the laws here. Thank you very much.
So the formation of an association in the Middle East is a little bit of a taboo. It is even in more mature markets like the UAE. To give you an example, in Dubai, they're finally launching the Dubai Association Center as we speak in November of this year. And it has taken a group of stakeholders, which includes the Convention Bureau, the tourism and marketing bodies, the Chamber of Commerce, the private sector to come together. It's taken 3 years. So now that this forum has started and the MICE industry is becoming a little bit more formulated, you have now a Convention Bureau as well. It is something that needs to be created, but I think it will happen with time. I don't think we can put a time around it, but I think you're building the right blocks. You now have the Convention Bureau, you have a MICE show, you need to probably have some input from the Chamber of Commerce and maybe in Jeddah or at a federal level, and who will help in issuing the right licenses for this.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for all the speakers, for your wonderful input today, and thank you all for the audience for the questions and for the follow-up. Please stay tuned for a presentation by Mr. Stéphane Dutriot, who is the founder of Pokin, the wonderful technology we've all been using throughout this conference. Thank you very much.